Hello world! WayofTime here, bringing to you another episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentaries. And to show my professionalism right off the bat, I'm going to change it so that it's peaceful, so I don't have those slimes mucking about in the area. So I'm going to be going on a week-long vacation, so there won't be much content updates to Blood Magic in for the, well, next week or so. However, I have been working quite steadily, I guess, on some of the existing features to make sure that they're all buttoned up. And that is what I'm going to be talking about in this episode, as well as one new feature that some people, well, it's a existing feature that is coming back to this version of Minecraft. Anyways, let's get on with it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the Sanguine Scientium. The Sanguine Scientium is Blood Magic's in-game documentation, and as you can see, you require Guide API in order to get it. Now let me reiterate this. Blood Magic documentation is available. It is heavily being worked on. However, you need to download Guide API, which is basically a library mod, in order to get it. Now, there are some reasons why you... Let me try to reiterate this in a different manner. I require Guide API because I don't want to work on all of the book backend stuff by myself just for one item, and I want Guide API to be something that people eventually use for their own mods, because I think it does offer a lot to developers if they want to make their own books. Is it the best in the world? Maybe not. Is it very adequate for what it does? Hell yeah. So let's actually see. So obviously when you right click it, you have an access to 4 different tabs. You have the Alchemist, the Architect, the Demon Kin, as well as the Ritual Master. And these each are basically books that have all the information for all of the stuff. Now, the Ritual Master is the most incomplete one out there, because all it does is it takes the information from the Ritual Diviner tooltip. Oh, that's something I should show that might not have been obvious in the previous thing. So if we cycle through the Ritual Diviner, obviously you can select which ritual you want, and if you hover over it, you can see that initially it has a description of the ritual. So a cut and dry description of the ritual. It tells you what the ritual does, if you have no clue what the ritual is, or if you can't remember what the name is. So the ritual of the Feather Knight drains health from players in its area and puts the LP into a nearby blood altar. If I hold shift, I can see how many runes it requires. If I hold shift and M, you can see that this has no augment information. Now this is one of the things that I've been working on for a bit of time. I put a bit on hold because I was working on the docs themselves. However, let's talk about the documentation before I go into ritual augmentation in any real form. I'm going to need to have some crystals, and when I do this, it'll actually allow me to show one of the other features that I was working on for a bit. So that's going to be fun. Crucible, and that's basically all I'm gonna need. So the documentation, as you can see, it saves which page that you were on the last time. Here's the information, and a nice good texture. Don't know why that page is in there. Anyways, it saves what page you were on last, including the page number. You can go back by either pressing the back arrow here or by right clicking. And it's divided into 4 books currently. There will be 5. Obviously you'll know what the 5th one is later. But anyways, so it's divided into rituals, demon will, alchemy, as well as all the general altar stuff. So we can see there's a foreword talking about what this is currently and what I hope it to become. You have blood altar crafting. You can see the altar, how to craft it. Arcane Ash, you can see Hellfire Forge recipes as well as the required amounts. Divination Sigil, you can see that you have Alchemy Array Crafting, so you can actually see what the array is before you actually use it. And as you can tell, Arcane Ash and Redstone, Arcane Ash and Redstone, it is the exact same as in here. Just showing you what to expect. Now, what is it that I expect this documentation to have? Let's see my music so I don't... Audio level checking for the win. Anyways, what do I actually expect from this documentation? I want to be able to tell a story and all the lore about the mod in this book, while also being able to give the information that the person is needing. So I'm obviously going to give the information of this is a speed rune, this is what it does. Here you can see directly that it's plus 20% per rune, and it's additive. And here's the Inspector Scandalum. You kinda need to get a freaking texture for it. Get on it, you life. Stuff like that. Lava Sigil, how to make that, all the stuff that you're going to need. I also want to inject as much lore as possible into it. So one example of this is Sigil of the Fast Miner. So instead of just saying this gives you haste 2, you can see that it actually means that you're using the iron in someone's blood in order to create a magnetic field that makes you move faster. But currently, this is only able to move your arms faster, therefore you use it to mine faster. But what I want to do is actually tell a story. So in the Demonkin, I'm talking about all the uses of Demon Will. I need to add a bit more onto this to talk about the Demon Will aura, because that's still a work in progress section, and I am going to add to it. It's basically something where it takes time to try to make as high quality of stuff as possible. As you can see, it's a lot of recipe creation, lots of pages for the discussion about in-depth systems. You have to talk about all the other stuff, and when you want to put a story into it, that's something else entirely. The thing is, you also have to be aware that although I want to inject a story, I also need to give the straight information to the player. For instance, sure, you may want to learn about Bella Highborn, how she came to learn about demon wills and snares, but 12 pages in order to get that information? It seems a bit much. So what I am doing is that, let's look at this. You see a story talking about demon will, what it actually is, how it comes about, what its general usage is. You can see how golems operate. So basically random lore about Thaumcraft in there that I decide to add. Then we have the crafting recipe. So what basically is going to happen in all of this lore, text, books, etc. when they are completed is that I'm going to have this story part as the first part. However, if you just want to know what a snare is, what demon will is, how do you actually get this, all you need to do is find the first recipe in the book, then go after that. After the first recipe, it'll be all the straight information. You can see with some direction, blah blah blah, made myself a rudimentary snare. You can see what it actually does, and then you get the actual will quality, etc. It's not the perfect solution. A perfect solution would be to actually set it today, because that would be a very helpful solution. At least I think so. A perfect solution would be able to make 2 separate books, one just lore-driven, one having all the straight information. However, that is a lot of work and is not something I want to see in the mod. What I want to see is that I want the person to be able to get the lore that they desire, see how things actually work, and then get the straight information of what to do. And some good fun jokes aside also. You'll also notice that in most of the stuff in the architect, almost all of it is straight recipe stuff. And that's because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to make the books. There's deciding on the lore, trying to make sure that it's canon, etc. And yes, there is a quote-unquote canon in the mod. I should make a canon in the mod. That might be fun. A cannon fueled by blood, generating an iron ball in order from the blood that you give it in order to strike down enemies. I love it when I do a devcom in order to explain existing mechanics, and I start talking about new mechanics that I want to take a look at. Anyways, so I think we're getting a little off track. Anyways, it takes a bit of time to actually do the writing, and what I've been focusing on is getting all of the information that I can. Obviously, I'm only up to a certain point in the Architect and the Alchemist, and obviously there needs to be a bit of work in actually writing the documentation because I might be missing a few parts, but other than that, it is working. And as you can see, non-crafting arrays also have their chance at the limelight. However, the Alchemist is definitely one of those books that needs a lot of work on. Speaking about books that need a lot of work on, let's ditch that for now and start talking about some of the new, not the new mechanics necessarily, yeah, some new mechanics, but some stuff that I was talking about before. So, in previous developer commentaries, I was talking about Demon Will Aura and how you'll eventually be able to augment existing rituals with powerful effects. That is semi-possible right now, but it is still obviously work in progress. So let us get our Demon Crucible, put that there, and we're going to need one other recipe. Oh, by the way, Sanguine Scientium, you can, I think I already showed that, it's just some glass, feather, and a book. Only if you have Guide API. The crafting recipe will change for this to make it so that you can see the recipe while you don't have Guide API, but can't really get the correct book when you don't have it, to at least make it easier for people. Anyways, I digress in the most spectacular way. So I was looking for the Demon Will Aura Gauge. A strange device that can measure the demon will in the aura. So if you check the recipe, it's a Hellfire Forge recipe that requires 400 will, and you need to be able to get yourself a Demon Will Crystal. I think it requires a raw Demon Will Crystal, I might have to check that. But let's get that, and you can see that there is now a bar hovering in our area. Might need to tweak the rendering so it doesn't occur when you have your chat up. Might be a bit big, but eventually the stuff is going to be completely configurable. So as you can see, this is a nice aura gauge, and you can see that I have absolutely no will whatsoever. If I put a steadfast crystal in, you can see that obviously the rendering needs work. This is basically Ulife made the texture, got the initial texture, now he needs to work on actually making it so you can see that there's in fact a purple bar there, and do not talk about purple elephants. Anyway, so we can see that this accurately tracks the amount of will that you currently have in the chunk. You can see that we now have 50 of everything except steadfast, which is at 100. So once that texture has a better resolution, better contrast I should say, it should be a lot better. Obviously, because I said better twice. And also, Demon Will Aura Gauge, it's pretty nice. Oh, also it only shows up when you have that up. Think of it like you're looking into it. I don't know what to think about this. Like, how does this work? It's like gold in the top left, but blue in... Anyways, it's just a Minecraft mod. Don't hook too much into that type of lore. And so now we have a gauge, and we're able to accurately do some divining. So let us get this slash blood magic network blood magic dev fill. Okay, obviously in the incorrect order because I don't use this command enough. There we go. Now I have all the LP I need. And yes, that is creative only. I do not know why you're even bothering to ask that question. So let us get ourselves a Ritual of Crusher to talk about some of the ritual augmentation, just to give some examples. It's work in progress. Hardly any of the rituals have stuff, so asking, hey, what's going to happen with this or what's going to happen with that, it's not going to help. So let's activate the ritual, and we can see that we are crushing already some of the dirt on the ground. And yes, it will work without a chest. It'll just spit everything on the top of the ritual. Anyway, so Ritual Tinkerer, if we set this to information and right-click, we can see that it breaks blocks within its crushing range and places the items into the linked chest. Now, if it has Destructive Will, blocks are broken down forcefully. All blocks broken are affected by Fortune 3. So if you set this to use Destructive Will, all blocks broken will have the Fortune 3 buff, well, on them. Simple enough. Corrosive. All blocks are broken to be processed with a form of cutting fluid. Override Silk Touch where applicable. So what this means is that cutting fluid. Remember cutting fluid? Cutting fluid, check the uses of this. This is used in order to make iron sand, gold sand, redstone, etc. So what it also does is it breaks down cobblestone and gravel into gravel and sand respectively, because it also adds the explosive powder effect. So most stuff that can be used as a semi-cutting fluid, so explosive powder, stuff of the like, so check the uses. It only has 2 uses currently, but there will be more uses in the future, will have that effect if you set it with Corrosive Will. Final effect that it showed is Steadfast. If you augment this ritual with Steadfast Will, it will cause all blocks that are broken to be picked up with Silk Touch, and it overrides Fortune where applicable. So if it can be Silk Touched, it will be Silk Touched. Pretty common. So let us set the type of will consumed. So if we shift right click and set it to Set Will Consumed, you set the types of demon will that the ritual will consume from the aura by right clicking on the master ritual zone with the same types of crystals on your hotbar. Blah blah blah, lots of words. So we want to set this, for instance, to Destructive Will only. The ritual will use Corrosive. I said Destructive, didn't I? Corrosive. Whatever. So if we get some cobblestone here, got broken, and we can see we got some gravel. We got 2 pieces of gravel. Is it supposed to be 2? I think I actually checked that. Shows only 1 here. Is that a bug? A bug in the mod? What is this madness? Yep, there's might be some sort of bug in this ritual, so I'm going to have to work on that afterwards. Gotta love the joys of bug testing. Let's see, time, set, day. There's obviously some good reason for why it's doing double, isn't there? But I can't think of the reason because I am a poofy face. Anyways, so it also uses some Corrosive Will. You can see we dropped down to 49. And let's get some iron ore as well to show that that works as well. It uses a bit of Corrosive Demon Will each time it does an effect. So you can see it's going to slowly drain the Demon Will and give yourself some nice stuff to work with. There we go. And it uses a different amount of Demon Will depending on what you do. Yeah, it's definitely getting doubled. I should have only gotten 18. At least I found a bug when doing some more testing. Hooray, hurrah! Now, obviously, you can just fill your crucible with more Demon Will. And this is a way to use up the will. But that is something else entirely. So we also wanted to show what? I think it's destructive Destructive, destructive. No, I overwrote my thing. Information. Destructive blocks are broken down by Fortune 3. So if we set this to destructive, we can use our Fortune 3 effect. Set will consumed. Now we'll use destructive. I feel this is a lot more refined of a method than using reagents, because with reagents you couldn't really tell what you'd do, well, what you'd need, because there were so many reagents, and I'm not even going to get started on how stupid of a system reagents were. It was basically a means in order to make people use more resources. However, it wasn't really balanced, and it also was a stupid system in order to actually automate. However, with Demon Will Aura, I feel at least that if you wanted to move all of your Demon Will to different places, all you have to do is go to a nearby chunk. Let's see, are we in the same chunk? Nope. We should be in a different chunk. Hello? Aren't we in a different chunk now? I think I need to fix that. Anyways, go into a different chunk, place down a pylon. I know what the bug is that's causing that, so I can work on that later, but now we can see that we spread the love, so to speak, where we equalize all of the aura in the different areas. Okay, so that is Demon Will Aura. I already set it to destructive, so we might as well just show what happens when we put diamonds. Diamonds are better to show. Diamonds are Minecrafter's best friend. So, place one of these down. We can see we got 2 diamonds. Place that down. Got 3. Well, 1 more. Got 1 more. Got 1. Man, I'm not being fortunate here. Got 4 from that. 4 from that. So fortune is always one of those crapshoot things. And you can see that our demon will also decrease. And it decreases pretty quickly depending on what you have. So, now that that is done, what did I want it to... Oh, yes! Yes. Alchemy table. Get some sugar. Magma cream, I think. And what else? Melon? Gas tier. Gas tier for the win. We'll place this down. What do I have this out for? Potion flasks. You can now make potion flasks, and they are awesome. So potion flasks, I'm gonna keep on messing that up. Flasks, potion vials of awesomeness. Let's go with that. Require basically water bottle, nether wart, redstone, and glowstone, and no effect flask gives you 8 uses, though I don't have that on the tooltip yet because who knows. You can basically hold right click to drink like a normal potion and it will decrease its durability. So if you go to game mode 0, you can see that this no effect flask can be used up to 8 times. And can't be used anymore. So that was a good testing way, good testing. Now, you can see by checking the uses or the recipes of it that you can add different effects to it. So if you have a potion flask and a gas tier, you can get regeneration. It's a bit worse than the regeneration from a normal potion, but that's because you have A, 8 uses, and B, you can do more stuff with it. So let me explain with that. So by the way, these aren't balanced right now. They're not really balanced. What's eventually going to happen is that if you check the recipe of these again, instead of just a gas tier, you're going to need to use some sort of combinational catalyst. So a binding agent in order to actually add the effects into this. And there's also going to be another mechanic to talk about how to, have pure potions, etc., etc. We'll not get into that. Ooh, maybe I should make lingering potions. That would be fun. Lots of good lingering potions. Ha! Magic. How long does that last? Pretty long time. Anyway, so if we have a potion flask and add sugar to it with a blood orb, because all of these actually require blood orbs, tier 1 blood orb I believe. Here we go, we can add some speed to this flask. Very good. 2 minutes of speed, that gives us a lot to work with. So if we needed to have a speed potion, we can have 8 uses of speed potion, 2 minutes each. That makes a lot of time. Yes. 8 times 2. Woohoo. What's the recipe of this anyways? I think this is tier 4. Anyway, so getting back onto that. So obviously that's good and all, but you might want to improve it a bit. So let's get some simple lengthening catalyst and some simple power catalyst and another flask. Let's just make that quickly, and 5 seconds of awesomeness later. Done. And by the way, you can't re-add a potion effect, so that'll help. So if I want to make this longer, I make a simple lengthening catalyst whose recipe will change. This is basically a work in progress recipe for people to play with. And if we have a potion flask that is like this, basically needs all 8 uses intact currently, need to fix that, don't know why it's like that, we can have a potion with 520. Now the same thing, if we have a potion flask and some sugar and a simple power catalyst, we can do the same thing and have a shorter potion with speed 2. But if we wanted to make something really awesome, we can take our speed 2 potion and lengthen that duration. And this will make us a speed 2 potion with 2 minutes and 40 seconds of duration, which is nice. However, it does require the resources of both in order to make this, and the time is basically every lengthening stage that you add to it is multiplied by 8/3, and every power stage is multiplied by 1/2. So basically power halves durations, and and lengthening increases the duration. For obvious reasons, it'd be kind of weird if the opposite was true. Anyways, we can also add multiple effects onto potions. So if we add magma cream onto this speed potion, we can have a nice fire resistance potion. Obviously, if we were to add magma cream alone, we get fire resistance, but this has fire resistance and speed. Unlengthened fire resistance, I might add, so if we wanted to lengthen that effect, we need to add more magma cream and simple lengthening catalyst in order to improve that effect. And if we wanted to increase the potency of our speed, we need to use a power catalyst. And obviously, if we use the gas tier, we can add regeneration to this potion and lengthen its effects similarly by using gas tier, because that would actually be helpful. So currently the hard cap is that you can only have 3 potion effects on a single flask. Speed 2. So let's drink this, and we get a whole slew of buffs right here, which is nice for when you go into combat of different sorts, and you can have very powerful potions. So the balancing eventually, in order to get more effects than just 3, is you're going to have to take into account impurities of a potion. Obviously, there's a lot of chemicals that you're dumping into this potion flask. For instance, this thing currently has 3 sugar in it, as well as 2 magma cream, a lengthening catalyst for each of the effects, 2 gas tiers because of that, and also a power catalyst. So when you think of it, you're dumping a lot of junk into this one potion in order to make it a very strong one. And you only have 8 uses for this. So there's going to be some sort of impurity that is introduced by adding all of these ingredients. So eventually whenever you add a new potion effect, or you augment an existing potion effect, you're going to add impurity onto the potion flask. Also, whenever you refill a potion flask, which is currently not possible, you'll add more impurity into it, because obviously if you refill it, you're not refilling it with the base ingredients, you're refilling it with some sort of filling agent that magically, alchemically mirrors the effect and does a bunch of other stuff. Anyways, let's actually go on to what this actually means. So by doing that, you'll add more impurities into it. Basically, the potion is less pure. It won't affect anything when you're drinking it. However, when you're making the potion, some of the chemicals inside the ingredients will react in mysterious ways when you have too high of an impurity, making something that you absolutely probably won't expect, because RNGesus decides to ordain its will on top of your potion flask. So if your potion is too impure, whenever you try to change it at all, while it still has that impurity, a random effect will change. So what might happen is that you're trying to increase its... Obviously this won't work, I know that. You try to increase the potency of its regeneration when it's a very impure potion with a bunch of other effects, and all of a sudden your regeneration looks a lot more like withering than something that will be helpful to you. Stuff like that. Obviously, there are going to be ways in order to counteract that, and those swirling particles are starting to annoy me. So there will be ways to counteract that. For instance, you'll be able to get the impurities out of the potions. However, getting impurities out of the potions will be an expensive process, and it will also depend on how much impurities there are inside of it. So if you have a really impure potion, you might need a really strong purifying agent in order to actually get all that impurities out there. Obviously, going to need a bit of effort in order to get that to occur, so you're going to have to be careful for that. But if you have just minor impurities, like adding different effects, and you want to be careful, you can use a small purifying agent, and it'll be a lot more beneficial for you. That sort of balancing obviously is going to have to wait for a bit. However, there are still currently uses. You can get regeneration, night vision, fire resistance, water breathing, speed, instant health, poison, blindness, weakness, strength, jump boost, slowness, haste, invisibility, saturation, and health boost. Let's see that haste one again. Haste was this one. Plus 10 attack speed, which is very helpful. And it's a plus 20 attack speed, so very helpful in a battle if you so choose. I think that's everything, right? Yeah. So, that's all the time we have for this episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentary. If you like what you see, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to future episodes. Lingering potions for the win. WayofTime here. Signing off. I'm pretty lucky. Have a wonderful day.